All right, let's just dive right in. Welcome to today's Explainer, where we're taking a journey straight into the invisible. We're going to map out this totally shadowy, untraceable global system that connects seemingly unrelated crimes all over the world. It's literally a multi-trillion-dollar underground economy happening right under our noses. And to understand it, well, we have to follow money that doesn't actually move. To start, I kind of want you to put yourself in a really uncomfortable position. Imagine stepping into the shoes of someone who just made $100,000 selling illegal drugs on the street. So what do you do with it? You've got this massive pile of physical cash, and honestly, you have a huge problem. You obviously can't just walk into a bank and deposit it. They're going to ask a ton of questions and report you. You definitely can't stuff it in a suitcase and hop on a flight. Airport security is going to seize it in a heartbeat. You somehow need to clean this money, to launder it, right? And get it back to your bosses across the border.
And you know what? You're definitely not alone in this. This is a massive global puzzle. Get this, roughly 3 to 5% of the entire world's GDP, which, to put into perspective, equates to an astonishing $4 trillion, is the proceeds of crime. We're talking drugs, human trafficking, weapons, illegal wildlife parts, the whole shebang. It all generates literal mountains of cash that desperately needs to be cleaned and moved. And to do that without getting caught, these criminal organizations rely on a phantom network.
So let's jump straight into Section 1, the origins of flying money, starting with the Tang Dynasty. Okay, picture this. During the Tang Dynasty in China, copper coins were the standard currency. Now, if you were a tea merchant selling your harvest in the capital, you'd be paid in these massive, ridiculously heavy bags of copper. Traveling back home with all that weight, that made you a sitting duck for robbers on those dangerous roads. So, this absolutely ingenious system was born. You take your heavy coins and give them to Merchant A in the capital. He hands you a lightweight little paper receipt. You travel home completely safe, hand that paper to his trusted partner, Merchant B, and Merchant B gives you the exact same amount in copper coins locally. The merchants, they just settle their own debts later. You get your money, but the physical coins never actually traveled with you.
This clever little workaround became known as flying money. Basically, it's a trust-based system of mere transactions. It transfers value without the physical money ever having to cross a border. Historically, as the Chinese diaspora spread globally, often facing some pretty harsh persecution and really having to rely on tight-knit clan networks, this system provided a super vital, trusted way to send wealth back to family. But today? Well, this exact same network of trust is being completely abused by global criminal syndicates to wash their dirty cash.
Which brings us to Section 2, the mirror transaction, and its modern application.
So, we basically have two entirely separate problems that are about to completely solve each other. On one side, let's call it side A, we have Mr. Chen in China. He's got $2 million in completely legitimate wealth that he really wants to invest in a Miami apartment. But there's a catch. The Chinese government has this super strict $50,000 limit on moving money out of the country. Then on side B, we have a Mexican cartel operative sitting in Chicago. He has $2 million in dirty street cash from selling drugs. He desperately needs to get that value back to his cartel bosses in Mexico without setting off massive alarm bells. So, two isolated pools of money, right? And two very different needs.
Here's how this invisible handoff actually plays out. Mr. Chen goes to a broker in China and transfers his 2 million yuan locally. Boom! Done! At the exact same time, the cartel hands their 2 million in dirty cash to a trusted associate broker in Chicago. Now, these two brokers are actually part of the same clan network, so they just coordinate quietly over an encrypted app, usually something like WeChat. The Chicago broker takes that dirty cartel cash and just hands it over to Mr. Chen's cousin in the US. The cousin quietly deposits it in small chunks across a bunch of family businesses and goes ahead and buys that Miami apartment from Mr. Chen. I mean, look at what just happened here. Mr. Chen got his US asset, the cartel got rid of its highly incriminating street cash, and absolutely zero actual dollars or yuan ever crossed an international border. Crazy, right?
But wait a second, the balance is completely off now. Broker A in China is just sitting on Mr. Chen's $2 million. And Broker B in the US effectively owes the cartel $2 million down in Mexico. So how in the world do these brokers settle up with each other and pay the cartel without alerting the entire global banking system?
Well, they basically cheat the global economy through doctored trade. Let's say the broker in China owns a legitimate front company selling everyday appliances, and the cartel in Mexico owns a retail front. The cartel goes ahead and purchases $10 million worth of actual, real Chinese refrigerators. But here's the trick. The Chinese broker doctors the invoice, charging them only $8 million. When those refrigerators arrive and get sold in Mexico, the cartel just secretly absorbed $2 million in hidden transfer value. The debt is perfectly settled through what looks like a completely legal, standard global shipping transaction. Mind-blowing.
All right, moving on to Section 3,
the global crime web, and connecting the dots.
Because this ledger is based purely on transferring value and not just moving cash, flying money actually connects an incredibly overwhelming web of global crimes. For instance, the Sinaloa cartel's massive drug trade is directly linked to the poaching of endangered Totoaba fish bladders, which, by the way, are often called the cocaine of the sea. This exact same network connects illegal timber, illicit gold mining, shark fins, jaguar bone wine, and even human trafficking. It's all tied together. An unassuming little electronics store in New York City might literally be the financial linchpin keeping a rhino poaching ring in Africa afloat.
And honestly, a lot of the time, cash is completely cut out of the equation altogether. A Mexican cartel will use local fishermen to poach, let's say, $3 million worth of those Totoaba fish bladders we just talked about, which are highly prized status symbols in China. They smuggle these over to the Chinese mafia. But the Chinese mafia doesn't send a wire transfer or bags of cash back. No way. Instead, they settle their flying money debt by shipping phenylethyl bromide, which is a really vital precursor chemical used to manufacture fentanyl, right back to the Mexican cartels. They're literally trading illicit goods to settle debts, which leaves zero financial paper trail for anyone to follow.
And when they do need to clean massive amounts of dirty cash, the ledgers get seriously dizzying. So walk through this one with me. Say a US-based Chinese broker ends up holding $13 million in dirty cash, maybe $3 million from smuggled fish products and $10 million from cartel street drugs. To keep the cartel bosses happy, a trusted Mexican broker just pays the cartel $13 million in pesos directly down in Mexico. Now, the US broker owes his Mexican counterpart big time. So how does he wash that $13 million sitting in Chicago? Simple. He imports $1 million worth of cheap fake electronics from China, but doctors the invoice to say he paid $14 million. Once those cheap little tablets clear customs, boom, $13 million has been legally justified and scrubbed completely clean. It is quite literally a magic trick hidden in plain sight.
And finally, Section 4, catching the ghosts and infiltrating the network.
Andrea Crosta, who is the founder of Earth League International, which is essentially like an intelligence agency for the environment, puts it absolutely best. He says, the ledger is only trust. AI by itself is not going to make the case. And he's spot on. Because flying money relies heavily on analog, human trust, and physical face-to-face meetings, all the high-tech digital surveillance and super smart financial AI algorithms in the world just can't see it. The money isn't sitting in a computer somewhere. It's literally in a conversation. So, to actually map out these networks, investigators have to rely on some incredibly gritty, old-school espionage. The playbook here requires recruiting super rare, Chinese-speaking undercover operatives. These agents will spend months, sometimes even years, infiltrating and befriending cartel brokers and seafood traffickers. And it is incredibly dangerous work. Just to give you an example, in one operation, undercover agents actually went to dinner with a corrupt customs officer in Mexico City. And this guy showed them how to use this special invisible dye on duffel bags full of cash so it wouldn't even show up on airport X-ray scanners. The agents have to capture all of this on hidden cameras, painstakingly piecing the whole network together just one human node at a time.
But guys, this fight is severely unbalanced. On one side, you have the criminal advantage. They are taking this ancient analog system and totally turbocharging it with encrypted apps like WeChat and decentralized crypto, which makes it virtually unbreakable from the outside looking in. On the other side, you have a pretty massive enforcement flaw. See, law enforcement agencies are very often driven by quick, flashy statistics. It's just so much easier for an agency to prioritize fast, highly visible border busts or immigration stats to show the public some progress, rather than dedicating the literal years of funding and extreme patience required to unravel these super complex, long-term money laundering cases. The whole incentive structure is just kind of broken. Which leaves us with this massive, looming question to wrap up our explainer today. We live in an era of completely unprecedented digital tracking, yet the absolute most sophisticated criminal networks out there operate completely in the dark, relying on nothing more than trust, doctored invoices, and handshakes. So how do you stop a $4 trillion criminal economy when the money itself never actually moves? It's a massive puzzle that law enforcement is really only just beginning to piece together. I definitely want you to think about that the very next time you see a shipping container, a random electronics store, or even a big real estate transaction. Thank you so much for joining me today, and hey, keep your eyes open out there.